Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Billal, one of the Senior Enterprise Customer Success Managers here at Onfido. Onfido helps companies see real identity with the humans behind the screens using world-leading AI and identity experts. Your customers can prove their identities wherever they are with just an ID document and their face. This means businesses can verify their users without compromise on experience, conversion, privacy, or security. That's how Onfido gives companies the assurance they need to onboard customers remotely and securely. Today, we're also joined by Tony, who's head of operations at Luno, a company that Onfido has had the pleasure of working with for the last 3 years. And I had a really amazing experience visiting them in South Africa just before the world turned upside down with the COVID pandemic. So looking forward to visiting you guys again. And I'll give over to Tony to introduce himself and Luno as well.
Oh, Billal, yeah, thanks. And yeah, really good to be with you guys today. Yeah, this crazy times that we find ourselves in. So hopefully everybody's keeping safe and healthy. So I'm Tony. I head up operations for Luno. Luno is a crypto company, and our goal is to build the most trusted crypto company on the planet and make it the safest place for our customers to buy, sell, and store crypto with us. So that's kind of in a nutshell what Luno does. We started out predominantly focusing on emerging markets, but happy to report that we're available in most countries and have a very, very aggressive expansion plan going forward. So you should see us in all markets pretty shortly.
Great. Thank you so much, Tony. And I suppose with the goals that you guys have for Luno, I think we've got some great questions and to find out a little bit more about Luno's plans, where they've come to today, and obviously for the future as well. So my first question is, why is digital identity important for Luno?
So I guess it goes back to what I said earlier. So our ambition is obviously to build the most trusted crypto company on the planet. And being the most trusted means we want to be trusted by our regulators, our partners, but most importantly, our customers as well. And knowing who your customers are with a very strong focus on digital identity minimizes the risk of financial crime such as money laundering and fraud, taking place on our ecosystem.
Great, thank you so much. And I know the demographics that you guys have today are really broad, and especially with the expansion plans that you guys are coming up with. And one of your core goals is empowering billions of people by creating an equal financial system is one of the really core aims that Luno has. And I remember seeing this in your office when I was there as well. How does identity help support that goal?
Well, firstly, we're on a journey. Crypto is a new industry. It's a new market for most people. There's a lot of people who haven't heard about it, or if they have, it's by word of mouth. So there's a lot of education that still needs to take place in the space. And we need to take our customers on this journey with us. And if we're going to do that, we need to make Luno as simple as possible and as intuitive as possible for our users to use. As I said, crypto can be very confusing, often intimidating to lots of people. So simplicity and usability in the customer experience is key to that, along with helping to educate our customers around what it is and what we do. And what we want is someone, that once they've used Luno and seen how easy it is to sign up and start buying and storing crypto and using their wallets, they're much more likely to keep on using the app, keep on coming back to us, recommend it to friends and family, but most importantly, feel like they start to understand the crypto space a bit better. So it's about creating simplicity on this journey that we're going with our customers.
Yeah. That sounds really, really good. And I mean, you mentioned the growth that you guys have gone through, and Luno's been on an amazing growth journey over the past couple of years, and I've seen this working with you guys as well. Could you talk a little bit more about the growth that you guys have gone through over the last couple of years, and perhaps also your approach to how identity has developed over that growth over the last couple of years as well?
Yeah, it has certainly been an interesting journey lately. We've gone through a rapid expansion plan. We've had phenomenal growth. At the beginning of this year, in a period of 7 weeks, we grew from 6 to 7 million customers. So onboarding 1 million customers in only 7 weeks took some doing. It was quite interesting. In January alone, our downloads of our app increased by 60% compared to December, the month prior to that. And the year 2020 overall, we experienced around about 300% year-on-year growth. So it has been very aggressive growth, and it's been fantastic being part of that journey. In terms of our approach, I think the growth of Luno over the years and our approach to identity has been very much in line with how the industry as a whole has matured. In the early days, there was no regulation in place, but we knew that as the industry developed, regulation would become more and more important. So we embraced regulation early on. We developed all our systems and our processes with that in mind. We made sure that we aligned our approach with the FATF guidelines from day one, to ensure that as we built out this new financial system, we built it on industry standards that were the norm for the existing regulated financial systems. So this would obviously make it a lot easier for us to comply with any future regulations and regulatory frameworks that came out. And we wouldn't have to necessarily completely overhaul our processes and our policies, which would obviously be a huge effort. So our onboarding process at the early days also had a very high degree of manual intervention. And we had to make sure that we focused our efforts on creating a really quick and simple process for those high-value customers that were serious about investing, and yet create a very simple experience for those people who didn't necessarily want to invest with us, but were just interested in learning more about crypto and playing around with the app a little bit. So what we did is we created a tiered approach to identity, which determined what KYC data we collected from our customers. If someone did not want to deposit a lot of money, we really restricted the amount of data that they needed to sign up with. But they had certain limits in place. They couldn't do very much. They couldn't invest or transact much at all. And that was our way of reducing risk, yet allowing us to scale with a high degree of manual effort. And as a customer wanted to invest more, so we increased the amount of KYC data required. And that approach did work for us in the beginning, in that it minimized our manual overhead. But the problem came down the line in that as customers grew with us, the experience was really not great, as they had to go through that onboarding journey a number of times before they had a completely unlimited account. It also proved to become quite an operational burden, in that a single customer ended up going through that onboarding journey multiple times. So our approach now, where we are, is that we want the customer to have a really, really simple onboarding experience, only go through that journey once. And with that, with the volumes we're dealing with now, it means a huge focus on automation. We simply cannot manually process the volumes that we're dealing with. So automation is key to our approach right now.
Great, that's brilliant. And sticking with that sort of point around the growth, there's always an elephant in the room when we talk about cryptos, and that's the crypto booms. But let's not talk about the price here. When the boom happens, there's significant challenges that come from an onboarding perspective, especially as your onboarding perspective has changed over time. How did you meet the challenges that came with that scale that happened when the boom started?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, we onboarded 1 million customers in 7 weeks. So huge focus on automation. It simply would not have been possible for us to onboard that many people without a huge focus on automation. And then also, a really simplification of the customer journey. And part of that simplification of that journey was actually implementing the Onfido SDK into our app. You guys were key in raising that with us a number of times, and that really did simplify the onboarding process for our customers. With that SDK in our app, it allowed us to give our customers real-time feedback, when they were capturing the identity documents. We used to have a lot of problems with images, being cropped incorrectly, or glare from overhead lights, things like that, distorting the documents, which historically would have resulted in somebody going through that onboarding journey, getting their documents rejected, and then only after the process, it could be 10 minutes, could be an hour. If they ended up in a manual queue, it could have been as much as a day later, where we get back to them, only to tell them that the documentation didn't pass, and then they would have to start the process again. So by embedding the SDK in our app, we enable app to actually give them that real-time feedback. So the number of times a customer gets or ends up failing the onboarding process due to documentation issues is really low at the moment, and that has really helped give that real-time feedback, simplify it, and take away all the manual work from us.
Great. And with all these changes that you guys implemented to optimize your onboarding experience, did you see an increase in fraud, which also had an effect on the onboarding experience as well?
So no, our fraud ratios remained the same. Obviously the volumes went up, but the ratios remained very, very consistent. And I think key to that was having those solid KYC processes in place where you can verify the authenticity of the identity of your customer. That's key. We've got robust financial crime defenses in place, and knowing your customer goes a long way to helping and helping those defenses and really deterring financial crime. So that has been key to keeping our fraud ratios really under control as we've been able to scale.
I'm sure your teams are happy about not having to deal with more fraud as well. So apart from working closely with you guys, I'm actually also a customer as well, and I've been through your onboarding experience, and it is a very seamless experience. But we know that customer expectations of digital experiences have skyrocketed and have really changed as services digitize, and people will abandon sign up if they're not met, if there's not a good quality of an onboarding process. How is Luno tackling this, and how do you optimize that experience?
Yeah, there's actually no tolerance at the moment for a poor experience by customers. Your competitors are only a click away. So if they have a poor experience with you, they're off to the next company. So we're constantly looking for ways to give our customers the best and really simplest experience possible. Innovation has been part of our core culture from day one. And part of that is really focusing on the customer experience. So some examples of the changes we've made is we make sure that our customers are only required to go through that onboarding journey once now, and we make sure we only require information from them that they are required to go. So we don't ask for any additional information. We make sure that the onboarding journey for the customer is also highly customizable to each region. So, we operate under different regulatory frameworks. In a country like Malaysia, we're one of 3 licensed crypto companies there, very strong regulatory framework in place. And the KYC requirements are somewhat different, to certain other regions around the world. So we make sure that we customize it per market. We make it as simple as possible. And if somebody does fall through that onboarding journey, if they hit a problem, then it's backed up by great customer support. So we do have a customer success team that's constantly looking for customers that fail in the automated journey, and they help those customers out as quickly as they can.
Cool. And that zero tolerance that you mentioned doesn't just finish at the onboarding experience, right? It's now the whole in-app experience. And through the entire life cycle, when you're using an app or a digital service, people want to be able to be empowered to complete high-risk actions like account recovery in a seamless manner, like using an iPhone and unlocking it, for example. What does Luno's approach look like, and how do you guys really carry on being seamless throughout the entire experience of the app?
So firstly, as I mentioned earlier, our goal is to build the most trusted crypto company on the planet. And trust for us starts with making sure that our customer funds are safe above all else. So we do need to make sure we balance the need to empower our customers with the need to keep our customers' funds safe. What that does mean is that we do want to allow our customers to perform those high-risk transactions, but only once we've confirmed that it is in fact the owner of the account that's performing the transaction, and it's not a criminal who's gained access to the account through means of phishing or stolen identities or something like that. So our approach around this is been evolutionary over time. We focus heavily on simplifying the process without compromising security. We've got a number of mechanisms in place to confirm the ownership of and the identity of the person transacting. But we're also about to start trialing Onfido's real identity platform, which will also add biometric face authentication into our process. This should help us simplify the process for our customers, because traditional authentication methods such as two-factor authentication can be complicated for most people. You know, I always try and think of, you know, how would I explain something like 2FA to my mom, who's almost 80? It's almost impossible to do so. So, you know, our target market is everyone out there. We want to make it as simple as possible, and having biometric face authentication built in will certainly help us, you know, make sure that we allow our customers to manage and perform high risk transactions, but in a safe manner.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember trying to teach my mom how to use her first iPhone that I bought for her birthday, and it was something I don't want to experience again. So I totally understand that. And in 5 years, what do you think your approach and Luno's approach to identity will look like? How much do you think it would change, and what would you like to see it look like as well?
I think so. I think the principles on which we base our approach, you know, that will evolve slowly and really not change dramatically. But how we align the customer experience to that is certainly going to evolve over time. And I think the biggest change, you know, for us and probably the industry as a whole, will be much more reliance on biometrics, both face and voice. You know, identity data can be stolen, and because that data does not change, once it's in the hands of the criminals, it can be used over and over again. But your biometric markers cannot. And I know, you know, there's a lot of talk about deep fake videos and things like that. I know it's a very real threat, you know, to biometrics. But I do believe that, you know, the mechanisms to detect fakes will be pretty sound in the future, and it will become more and more relied on. So, yeah, for me, you know, identity verification without physical documentation, which can be copied and tampered with, or any kind of static information that doesn't change and therefore by its very nature is not really secure, I think, you know, that'll be very real, that we'll be able to do identity verification without those things. And biometrics is going to play a massive role in that.
Great. It's definitely growing, and we hope that it can only get better and enable more access for customers across the board as well. There's some really great insights there, Tony, and we really appreciate it. And thank you for your time today. Great.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, great to be with you guys, and we look forward to continuing this journey with you guys.
Yeah, and absolutely looking forward to seeing Luno skyrocket even more.
Great, thanks, Billal.
Thank you.